It's college football season, which means you need the unbeatable coverage of Sling TV starting at $35 a month. Sling has all the big games on all the biggest channels like ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN3, SEC Network, ACC Network, Fox, and the Big Ten Network, all for the best price. You can stream to any device. You can record up to 50 hours with your included DVR space. And you can pause or change your service at any time. Check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the live TV you love at a price you'll love. Try it today. Welcome to the Andy Staples Show presented by Sling. I am joined by Max Olson, Ari Wasserman, and my blender. Ari's somewhere in there. He was with us. He was talking. Now he's hiding from us because
I don't know what happens every time. Like we go down and then come back in, my camera shuts off. But I think that's probably a nice little 30-second break from the people who need a break from my face. So
building the anticipation for your appearance. I like
yes,
that.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly. So we got a big show today. Nick Saban got paid. Ari spent the day with Ohio State. And Max had an incredible story on Adrian Martinez, and we are going to put something Adrian Martinez said in that story to the test. For those who don't remember, Adrian Martinez, Nebraska's starting quarterback for 4 years. He's since transferred to Kansas State. Max, let's talk about Adrian's jaw last year.
Yeah, one of those kind of stories behind the story there that people didn't totally know at the time it was happening. But last year, Nebraska plays a big night road game at Michigan State. Very even game. Pretty wild to go back and rewatch knowing what you know now. But first drive of the game, Adrian Martinez gets smacked in the head by a safety and breaks his jaw. Doesn't realize
the whole game, by the way.
Yes. So he goes to the locker room. Scans don't say much. He misses one drive on offense, goes back out, plays the rest of the game with a broken jaw, and almost wins it. And then the doctors figure out a way. You should probably get your jaw wired shut or have surgery or kind of be shut down for the rest of the season. And instead, they figured out a way to let him keep playing by using elastic bands to hold his jaw together. And he didn't miss a game, and played his next 5 games. Obviously, an up and down run there, but he was playing through it. And even when Nebraska had press conferences during the week and after games, he would take the elastic bands out and try not to open his mouth too much and show what was going on there. And they somehow he got away. I mean, he got hit in the mouth a few times in the games that happened after. But Adrian Martinez, pretty tough SOB in terms of what he dealt with last season just to try and give Nebraska a chance to play in all those close games.
And this required nourishment early on with the jaw wired shut. And that nourishment had to be liquefied.
It did.
He did a lot of experimenting, Max.
He did. Yeah, you would think smoothies. I know he liked eggs. Eggs can be pretty, you can do that pretty soft. Avocado. There's a few things you can try and choose. Early on, it had to be an all liquid diet, and then they kind of figured out some soft foods. But at Nebraska, they've got a nice little training table there, Andy, and they're going to cook up steaks for the entire team. And Adrian Martinez attempted to take one of those steaks and consume it in a non-solid form.
So liquid steak. And what did he think of this liquid steak?
He took a magic bullet. He put a steak in it. I think he put water in it. He said it was the worst thing he's ever eaten.
I got to test this theory. This is what I was thinking. Originally, we talked about this, and Nicole Auerbach's idea was make Ari do it if he loses a bet.
Which definitely would have happened, by the way.
And I was thinking about this. Like, we make Ari the guinea pig so many times on this show. It's not fair. And I do enjoy a steak. And so I am willing to take the risk that it's bad because it might be good. And so tonight on the show, we're going to attempt to try liquid steak. We're going to see, is this good? Is this terrible? Is it something in between? So
you texted me today and you said, yeah, I think I should make Ari do that as a bet. And then very quickly after that, you somehow got very enthusiastic about just doing it today.
I just felt
so
bad.
give us your thinking here.
I felt bad because it did occur to me that my first thought is always, we can make Ari do this. And I just don't think that's fair.
You think that you would have gotten to the mountaintop with the chip. But what that did was, it wasn't a significant amount of torture, or it was a lot of torture, but it wasn't enough to make Andy be like, we'll give him a break. It was like, we got to find more ways to make him do that, something like that again.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you're going to do this for us. And this is actually more of an Andy challenge. But I
is.
will say, before you blend this thing up, guys, that like a few weeks ago, before I read your story, Max, I think I slept on my jaw wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought I had like I was gonna have to go to the dentist because it was really hurting when I was chewing and it was bothering me all day. And it just turned out that like I think I slept on the jaw part wrong, and it was uncomfortable for like 36 hours, and I was miserable. Yeah. I cannot imagine not only having your jaw broken and having these bands in your mouth, but playing football.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, I don't even how.
So they crank these screws into your gums. 6 screws cranked into his gums, and they used elastic bands between them. And because you need the elastic bands, I think he wore them for 6 to 8 weeks to try and let this thing sort of heal and keep it in place. Because of that, he said he didn't wear a mouthpiece when he played because he needed to leave the elastic bands in. So all in all, not the safest way to go as a quarterback who has to do everything for your offense.
Who cleared this? I guess the doctors, but
that is seriously tough. And that's why Kansas State is kind of my dark horse team in the Big 12. I'm probably going to pick Oklahoma to win it. And we'll talk later because, Max, I want to bring you into a little bit of the Heisman discussion we had on Tuesday's show, because we figured with the BetMGM odds that Dylan Gabriel felt like the most value. But, Adrian Martinez in Kansas State, there's a lot of talent on that team. They have a very good offensive tackle. They have one of the best pass rushers in the country. Deuce Vaughn is one of the most dynamic backs in the country. So this is a team that could really surprise people. And, I just, given everything Adrian Martinez has been through, and you really detailed that well in your story, because this is a guy who came in with Scott Frost at Nebraska, kind of the hopes and dreams of Nebraska placed on him as a freshman, and it didn't work out there. And he gets one more chance to show, hey, I can be a good quarterback. I can go play in the NFL. And I'm excited to get a chance to watch him.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting. I think people are going to really find out a lot about him, and he knows like there's a lot that he has to prove, because that's part of the Nebraska experiences. They went 15-29 during his 4 years, and he went to K-State because he wants to go to a bowl game. He's tired of losing, and he wants to go kind of show the kind of player that he can be. And I think that it helps a ton when you can just turn and hand the ball to Deuce Vaughn and kind of have that. Nebraska just didn't have that consistency in the run game for the last 3 years. They've got good pieces on defense. I think they've got a good O-line, improving receiving core. Yeah, I think K-State has kind of become this popular dark horse for the Big 12 race. And, for Adrian Martinez, you've got to be consistent for 12 games and stay healthy. I mean, he's dealt with so many injuries during his career, taken so many hits from having to be the guy that runs the ball all the time in that offense. And I think he wants to kind of take that step and prove he can be an NFL passer. And I'm sure there's a lot of fans who've watched over the last 4 years and are skeptical, but it's going to be a pretty cool deal to see, can he and Colin Klein really click and find some things that really highlight what he does well and kind of hide some of the deficiencies.
The thing
10 years after Colin Klein's run to Heisman finalist, and they won the Big 12 and played in the Fiesta Bowl. And it feels not like 10 years since then.
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting thing, Max, and I know you got a really good view of this, is that when Adrian Martinez is clicking, he's one of the most exciting players in the country that, we've seen the last 5 years. Like when it's really going well there for him. And I think you mentioned this in your story a little bit, but like the turnovers, like if he could lock that up and kind of find that magic, like I think he could be a really, really exciting. I don't know about, NFL, like how high of a draft pick he would become. Right. But he's an excellent college player, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and you've seen, you've seen some of them close, just in terms of like maybe how he's played against Ohio State a couple times. Like that guy has shown up in big games. Last year against Michigan State. Oklahoma last year wasn't his greatest game, but still kept him in it. Like, the guy has had, like, if you just put together the highlight reel of the big plays, he's had a bunch. But it's just that 4-quarter consistency that there hasn't been a lot of the past few years, and. We're gonna find out. I mean, how much of that is just the issues in Nebraska? How much of that is Can he kind of solve the problem that he's had of 48 total turnovers over 4 seasons? That number is just way too high. And K-State's they've got a good team. They've got good quarterbacks in their room. Like if you're turning it over a bunch, you're going to get benched. I mean, Nebraska couldn't really do that. So he's got to play to their standard at K-State. And I think that from my talks with him, I think it's really bringing out the best in him because it has to.
So we're gonna test one of his theories, and that is that liquid steak is the worst thing he's ever eaten. And of course, that's his opinion. But I want to know, what does liquid steak taste like? And so I have top sirloin, and this is a piece of top sirloin. It's about 22 ounces.
He had to get the big one, right? Yeah.
So CJ on Twitter says, whatever you do, don't season it. I read about a powerlifter that eats a steak like this because it's the only way to get protein and calories in time-efficient manner. He said seasoning the meat makes it way worse. So naturally, I didn't see this before I put gobs of Montreal steak seasoning on this.
Would you ever not season your steak? I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So I am going to cut this thing up. We're going to hear from Sling and Peloton. I'm going to cut this thing up, and when we come back, I am throwing this bad boy in the blender, and we're going to eat some liquid steak. We'll be right back. I'm about to hit the road again. Gotten in good shape this summer. Trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to stay in shape? I know how I'm going to stay in shape. With Peloton, with Kirsten Ferguson, with Selena Samuela, with Andy Spear, with Adrian Williams, all my friends. Well, I don't actually know them, but these are world-class trainers who are in my ears all the time, telling me to push harder, telling me what I need to do, and making sure I get the best workout possible. And even when I'm on the road, I'll be able to do it because having that Peloton app turns any hotel gym into a world-class workout facility. I'm so excited. I want you to know about this too, because Peloton is not just treadmills and bikes. It's a community where you learn to keep pushing because there are other people there doing the same things you are, going through the same stuff you are, going through the same life things you are, and they're still getting it done every single day with the help of those Peloton trainers. So if you want to get a bike or a tread, go to onepeloton.com, check out special offers for first-time members. If you want to just have a fitness program that fits seamlessly into your life, sign up for the Peloton app. I've been doing it since 2020, and it has helped me transform my body, and I'm going to make sure I stay in shape thanks to Peloton. It's college football season, which means you need Sling TV, where you can watch unbeatable college football coverage starting at $35 a month. Get everything you love about college football, rivalries, marching bands, bowl games, conference power rankings, all of it with Sling. Plus, Sling has all the big games on all the big channels like ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN3, SEC Network, ACC Network, Fox, and the Big Ten Network, all for the best price. And the best part is getting Sling is easy. It's easy to set up, even easier to use. You can stream on any device and record up to 50 hours with your included DVR space. Plus, you won't get locked into a long-term contract. So if you're looking for the perfect place to spend your Saturdays, you need to take a look at Sling, where you can get everything you love about college football for the best price. Check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the live TV you love at the price you love. Try it today. Okay, we are back, and I have the blender on. I have the steak cut up. I went kind of medium rare. Normally, I'm more of a rare steak guy. We're doing top sirloin. Figured that's kind of lean. You know, this is bulk protein here. So we're going to throw that in the blender, and we're going to see what happens. I don't know if this is going to get liquefied enough, guys.
What kind of liquid are you using?
Yeah, I mean,
well, I have water. I have some iced tea. I have some brown ale. My kids want to do the taste test too. You may see them pop in here in a minute. So obviously I can't use the beer yet, but yeah, we're gonna give this a shot though. I have
would it be crazy to add like a little milk or something?
I think milk would be the worst possible thing.
You think so? No, I don't know.
I think water probably
protein on protein.
And I have water. So let's
need to get some water in there right now.
Well, let's hit start and see what happens, and then we'll add some water if it doesn't look liquid enough. All right, here we go. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, we're gonna need water.
Yeah.
Hold on. All right, we're gonna stop the blending. Stop the blending. All right,
So is it chopped now, or what do you got there?
It's definitely chopped.
Looks like I made a
Alright,
good taco.
So water here. And
I don't know why you guys aren't on. I think you need a solid base. I think water is going to make it worse.
All right, here we go. This looks like, well, liquefied muscle, because that's what it is.
How are you going to plug that into the Lose It app,
I
bud?
hope you trim the fat on this one too. Yeah.
Okay, so taste-wise, I think we're good. Texture-wise, this may be a bit of a challenge. Okay, here we go. We're gonna blend it some more.
This is truly sick. The thing that you have on your camera is blocking the blender, so we can't see.
Yeah,
it.
you're blocking the blender here, Andy.
Okay,
Okay.
here we go. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, I got my official taste testers here to help me out.
It looks like you need more water. Is it pretty thick there?
This is Will. It is very thick. It is very thick. Let's see. Let's get a glob out and then see if we need to put more water in.
It's got to be liquid.
It's protein paste at this point. I mean, it's
Yeah.
close. It is close to liquid. So let's see what we got. What do you want to say, Maggie?
You heard that this is the worst thing you ever heard, and you're like, oh, it's the worst thing I've ever tasted. I want to try it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said. Okay, so yeah, I am gonna need more water because I can't get it out of the thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need it. Okay.
Not it.
I need somebody to get me some more water.
I said not it.
So we're gonna, one of my taste testers is gonna get me more water. Quite a bit more water.
And that taste tester is not me.
Yes, we got you, baby. All right. So
what does your daughter think of this conceptually? What is
Maggie,
she?
what does it look like to you? Describe what we're looking at.
Me after I have chocolate.
You after you have chocolate.
Yeah, what's in the toilet?
Oh, good Lord. It does. I mean, it looks a little like dog food.
Our promo
I'm
clip.
It
not
does
gonna
look like
lie.
dog food. Yeah. Dog food, cat
Diarrhea.
food, something. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, it's a family-friendly podcast, so we'll keep the. All right, here we're gonna hit with the blender one more time.
It smells kind of bad.
That's the thing; it doesn't really smell like steak anymore.
No, it does not.
All right.
Yeah. Where'd the bark on that?
I
Steak
think
go,
this will
Andy?
pour. I think this will pour. I
Uh-huh.
do think this will pour now.
This did get more gross than I thought it would, Max.
Why are we
This is way more gross
This is
than I thought.
this is a lot. This is pretty pink.
I
as
I
you would
thought this
fear.
was going to be fun. I mean, this looks awful. This looks. I mean, it looks like dog food.
Why'd you get like the fattiest piece of steak? Like
I
that?
didn't. This is a lean piece of steak. This is a lot of liquid in it.
No, this.
Would you have
was-
gone fatty, Max?
It's like
I cut the fat off.
No,
I
I feel like
know,
that
I
might
didn't
make it
even
worse.
pretend it's
All
not
right,
bad, but, like,
so-
there's much fat.
I'm gonna scoop some out. I think. Can somebody grab me
A spoon?
a
Not
spoon?
it.
A spoon. I'm gonna need a
Not
spoon.
it. No.
Somebody get me a spoon. All right, because we got to get this into the cups. I have
You can't-
this.
like, you can't make your kids eat this first, though, right? Like you know that.
Oh,
you
gosh,
know you
no,
need to eat it first.
I don't even
right?
think they're gonna try it. Like my
Okay.
son, you see, he's out.
Max, you think he's gonna gag?
You're a texture person. I don't see how you're gonna
Yes.
take this.
I think
I'm
he
gonna
is too.
try it.
All right.
'Cause- Why not?
All right.
How are you supposed to drink this? Is it just gonna get like
Andy,
stuck
when you
in-
try,
Okay,
when you try to
alright.
drink it, make sure that your jaw doesn't move much.
That is liquid steak. This is what Adrian Martinez was eating. Okay.
Uh,
Hold on. Oh, that's mine. It's my
he made
show,
it
I
more
go-
for the audio listener. This looks more smoothie than
Really?
It does. It's a steak
juice,
smoothie.
To be clear,
It's a steak smoothie.
It's pretty thick.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you could get it down. I think if you had a wired jaw. I just don't think I'd want to.
Mhm.
So, all right, here we go.
Oh my gosh, I'll take.
All right, I am going to try it first.
Okay.
These guys are going to try it too.
How are you supposed to drink this? It's just gonna get like
You're gonna try it.
Liquid there.
All right.
Cheers.
Here's to football season. Cheers.
I'll let you guys just experience.
Oh, that's good.
It's delicious. I'm a.
Mm.
Nick does it crazy.
What was Adrian Martinez thinking? It is steak in smoothie form. Like
it's coming up on your son here a little bit.
yeah, you're a texture guy. All right. We have a ruling. Two of three staples recommend liquid steak smoothie. One of three staples recommends steak smoothie.
I don't recommend this.
All right. Taste testers, thank you for your yeoman service.
This is a warm run.
I love you. Thank you for helping out, but it's time to go wash your mouths out. Have dessert.
Yay.
I recommend
Bye.
it. Bye.
Have a nice show.
Thank you.
Bye.
I love you. Steak smoothie for dessert, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Steak smoothie. You know what? Not bad.
Describe this.
Well, it is kind of the texture of a smoothie or a milkshake, but meat. So, like, it is. I didn't pick a fatty cut on purpose because I did want it to be fairly lean and to be mostly meat. Like, this is. That's really good. And you can, like, you do not have to chew it. You can just swallow it right down. This would get you all your protein.
How you doing over there, Max? You good?
Oh, that is delicious.
I mean, maybe this
I'm
is
gonna
a
get
thing
another-
for you now, Andy. Maybe this is a fast delivery of steak and, with your workouts in the morning.
Well, I do wonder, like, if I'd been one of those, like, actual good offensive linemen who could put on enough weight and, well, block people. Like, they have to wake up at like 3 a.m. and eat peanut butter to keep their weight up.
Yeah.
This could have been your shake that you. So this, I got a good bit of liquid out of this one. Like, I think this is what we were going for. So, I don't know if you can see that in the cup.
Yeah.
That's what we
That
were
is-
going for.
That's
what we're
a
going for.
solid shot of steak right there.
There,
All right,
yes,
just,
it is.
Just
So-
shoot it.
Bottoms up. I got all over my nose, but most of it went down, and it's delicious. And I'm
Wow.
spraying it all over the keyboard now, but it is delicious.
Now-
I recommend this to anyone. So Andy Staples shows steak smoothies. I know there's other podcasts that have already opened their own restaurants or put out their own food items. They have the ghost kitchens working. Guys, Andy Staples Show and Friends steak smoothies. This is a thing that needs to happen.
I can't believe this. Now I should add it. So Adrian, after he hated his initial one, he tried making one where he added au jus and he added Greek olives, and he said that didn't make it any better. Andy,
Well,
I
I'm
went
glad you
on.
mentioned that, Max. So
Oh.
I have here a can of Duke's Cold Nose Brown Ale from Bold City Brewery in Jacksonville.
Okay.
I feel like that would go very well. Brown ale pairs well with steak. So
So you're doing this?
let's do it.
You're gonna spin the wheel and throw that in there, or what?
This was delicious.
This is
I
getting
can't wait.
Wow.
I'm like actually disgusted with this.
Now, Andy, I went on Reddit today, and there have been many people who've proposed steak smoothies, steak drinks, and asking how do you pull it off because they had broken jaws. And I saw one recommendation of if you do with chicken broth, that's actually better. And you can add vegetables, stuff like that. It sounds like you're saying it's just perfectly fine as it is.
It is wonderful as it is.
Wow.
Wonderful. Hold on. Let's
I can't believe this.
Make sure I didn't break my blender. There we go.
Yeah, keep going, and make it like.
I'm
I'm gonna let
point
this
out-
one roll with the beer. We're gonna completely liquefy this.
Now, Andy, I'm guessing in your time, you've had milkshakes that had bacon in them, right?
I have, but it's not like They
Have
don't
you
blend
done
the bacon
milk
in,
drink
it's-
crossovers in your past much?
right. The milkshakes with bacon, it's usually bacon bits that are just kind of
Sprinkled on
stirred
top.
in.
Okay.
Dan
Yeah.
Cundiff says, "Do we do a filet-o-fish smoothie or what?"
That's yours. That is all yours. Fillet of fish, and we'll just dump tartar sauce on it to give it some
God, that
liquid
sounds
base.
terrible. I don't know what it is about the
You actually
changes.
you gonna do the beer with the fillet of fish? That might.
Yeah.
Oh, here we
must be-
go. Now we're talking. All right, so this is the beer would be good. You get kind of like a lager or something.
Uh-huh.
Like that pairs really well with fish. So, all right, here we go. This is good and liquid right here. Smells good. Kind of like, I don't know, beer soup. It's not bad. I mean, you get all your carbs and your protein here. It's more smooth now. The beer's the way to go. I don't think Adrian Martinez should have done that because he was playing football. But
I don't know if it's just me, but I think I'm at the end of my rope with this. I don't know. Like,
what would it cost, Ari, for you to drink
honestly,
this?
it's making me sick to my stomach.
All right, we took the blender away.
I don't even know how. It's like so on brand that Andy would like that, because like he's into like, he loves steak, so I'm not surprised that he liked it. But like watching that was, he's like 2 out of 3 members of the Staples family likes it. His son's over here gagging.
I love how he tried to hang in for a second, and then Maggie really tried to hang in, and then it's just like, it's like, all right, well,
I think this is the best possible outcome for you, Andy, because not only did you conquer it, but I think you can use this as a dare and a bet with Ari.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
This looks like the last thing Ari would ever want to drink.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would rather do it than death chip. So we always have that. Like, I think I've already gotten to the top of the worst thing I could eat. But yeah, BL limes with filet fish for Ari, Lucas said. I'll do that. Yeah, I don't know. That just kind of, that one struck a chord with me. So I'm happy that you're a stronger man than I am.
This tasted good. This is not shtick. This is not an act. You saw me with the mayonnaise. Like, if I don't like it, you know. So this is.
But you blended something you love.
That's true, but I assume Adrian Martinez loves steak as well, and he thought it was the worst thing he ever ate. So
maybe I'll blend the Dijon mustard with something.
Oh. But I thought the idea of, with the Dijon mustard, and this is if Alabama covers against Texas, you have to eat an entire bottle of Bijan mustardson. I think the idea is to keep it from being all liquid. Like I would put it on something and just put it on, use so much of a volume of something that you get the whole jar taken care of. There's a lot of pretzels. I don't know if your stomach can handle that. Did you see where they're
selling that mustard, by the way?
Central Market,
baby.
Yeah. I was actually at Ohio State before we started recording this, and I was joking with Lathan Ransom about it, who played. I said, "You're gonna try yourself some Bijan mustardson?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna get some for my boy." So, that's. Let's just hope it doesn't come to that. But, I told everybody at the media contingent at Ohio State about that bet, and they were just like, "You are screwed." So it kind of makes me just want to hammer Alabama in that game.
Yeah, you mean the people who covered the team that Quinn Ewers played for last year?
Yeah, I guess maybe there's a correlation for that. I don't know.
All right, guys, we got to talk about Ari's trip to Ohio State. We got to talk about Nick Saban getting pizzade. But first, we're going to talk about our friends from Rowback and Run Your Pool. We'll be right back. So a care package came in the mail not long ago with a Rowback hat, a Rowback polo, and a Rowback hoodie. The hat has been my hat of the summer. The polo is fantastic. It's breathable, it's comfortable, and it's fun. The hoodie, unbelievable. So comfortable. And of course, within about 2 days, my wife stole it. So Rowback, I might need just one more hoodie. But Rowback is going to be a big part of this college football season because they're leading the NIL charge. They've signed up Alabama linebacker Will Anderson, who if you listen to this podcast, we think he's the best player in the country. Texas running back Bijan Robinson, who, if you listen to this podcast, we have a little bet involving another NIL deal of his, and Notre Dame tight end Michael Mayer. They're becoming the go-to activewear for college athletes. Their performance polos, hands down, the best polos out there. The performance hoodies, like I said, so comfortable. Your significant other will probably steal it. So just buy 2 right now. And finally, Rowback is making their first ever intro to bottoms with everyday shorts. They're perfect for a day of activity or a night on the town. So use the code Andy on rowback.com for 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com, and 20% off all polos, Q-zips, hoodies, and shorts with the code Andy. Rowback.com, and the code is Andy. Get ready to compete with me and Ari and all the friends from the Andy Staples Show and friends, because you're going to get a chance this year to show us that you are better than us at picking games against the spread. And I realize if you listen to the show, you're saying, Andy, historically, you've not been very good at this, but trust me, I have been practicing. I'm going to be amazing at it. We're doing this through runyourpool.com. This is the coolest partnership because Run Your Pool is going to let us run a pool with you guys. So you go to play.runyourpool.com/staples. That's play.runyourpool.com/staples. You can pick games against us, against the spread. And also, you're going to see how much you like runyourpool.com. And you're probably going to be making pools with all your friends in all the other sports as well, because there's not just college football. They got the NFL where you can do picking against the spread. You can do survivor pools. You can do all kinds of different stuff. MLB, NBA, golf, you name it. So join our pool. And there are some prizes. There's some Fanatics gift cards for the winner. And oh, by the way, Ari has promised that the winner is going to get a segment on the show. And I guess I have to go along with that. And so pick well, choose wisely. It's play.runyourpool.com/staples. Play.runyourpool.com/staples. Welcome back. We've enjoyed some steak milkshakes, and now we are moving on to more football-y talk. Nick Saban got paid today, gentlemen. Got paid. He's up to about $11-something million. Basically, he has a clause in his contract that if anybody is paid more than him, they can just go revisit it and give him a raise. We need these clauses. How do we get the Athletic to give us these clauses? And we just continuously get raises. Like Max gets a raise, then I get a raise, then Ari gets a raise, then Max gets a raise, then I get a raise, then Ari gets a raise. We need to make this happen. Like, get Jimmy Sexton on the phone right now.
I see no problems with that idea. Do you, Max?
Agents, hit me up. Let's get this going. Yeah.
Agents, hit me up.
It's crazy. I did a thing last year when Saban's contract was extended again, and I compared out-of-state admissions and the amount of tuition they're bringing in from out-of-state students, out-of-state applications. There's a big-time Flutie effect going on since Saban got there, but also because Alabama has sought out more out-of-state students because they pay more than in-state students, and they do give some merit scholarships to kind of get them to campus. But even if you take away the amount of money they give out in merit scholarships to get those out-of-state students, you can still probably attribute about $100 million in revenue to Nick Saban that has nothing to do with the athletic department. Like, that's crazy.
I just don't want to talk over anybody. Am I free?
You're good. Go.
You know what?
Do it.
What the amount of money thing isn't interesting to me, because it's like the most interesting thing to me is that if you compare what he's getting paid to other coaches that are in the same ballpark, it almost seems like a bargain, which I think a lot of, I don't know if other people, everyone's always freaking out about how much they make, but just like when you think about like what Michigan State and Penn State and other schools, Ohio State are paying their coach, and then you compare it to literally the Death Star of all coaches, it's not that much more money from that standpoint. But the thing that I thought was most interesting about it is, and maybe it's a recruiting thing or whatever, but everybody's always talking about, well, when Nick Saban retires, what's going to happen to college football? It's like, that was an 8-year deal.
It keeps getting longer.
Isn't that the thing? It's not how much he's getting paid. It's how long he's coaching, isn't it?
I think it probably, if you are someone else in college football, someone else in the salary neighborhood of Nick Saban who is expected to supplant Nick Saban at some point, I think you're scared because you're like, crap, this is never going to end.
Because he'll be what, 77 at the end of that contract? Is that what is
78,
it?
probably.
78?
Yeah.
Which actually, there's been people who have coached, he doesn't seem for a second like he's slowed down in anything that he's doing ever.
Yeah, how old does he seem to you at this point? You know what I mean?
Mid-50s to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And there it actually appears he's gotten younger in the last 5 years. I don't know if there's like a Benjamin Button thing going on. It's weird. But that would terrify me if my job was to win the SEC, or like if you're Billy Napier, if you're Brian Kelly, if you're Lane Kiffin, or if you're Sam Pittman, and you got to deal with this all the time. Like, you got to deal with them every year. Every year.
I don't know about you guys, but I do seem like a lot of what's going to happen when Nick Saban questions were popping up in mailbags and stuff. Like it seemed more prevalent of a thought. And I don't know if it's just because, he's getting up there in age on paper, but I thought to me, it's like, wow, 8 years. Okay.
Yeah. And we get that question all the time because I think people just want their team to have a chance. And if Nick Saban's still coaching, they don't. So it's wild. Now,
but I feel like if you're like the coach out there who covets the Alabama job, you want to be the next guy to Alabama or whatever. It's almost kind of like Succession or something. Like you just don't like, how do you know when the old guy's ever actually going to step down? He's too powerful. But
listen too, like if you have 8 more years, what is the over under for national titles won in those 8 years? 3.5?
I mean,
is that the fair number?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because it feels
especially
like every other year at this point.
They're definitely the odds-on favorite, in my opinion. I don't know what Vegas is saying, but they're probably going to. Why wouldn't they win it this year? Based on everything we know about Alabama football, they've got the best player on offense and the best player on defense, and Nick Saban. Like, okay, shut the book. Like what? Like,
right?
Like let's put it in like dynasty terms, right? Ari, like video game terms. Like, how many 15-0 seasons do you need before you get bored with it?
Yeah, I know. And it's like he's the thing I admire about him is that I don't think there's enough. I don't think he would ever get bored with it.
No,
right. And we see these changes in the game, and it's like, oh, this will chase him out. None of it chases him out. It energizes him.
Yes.
No, he loves recruiting too much to get tired of it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like the Benjamin Button thing. I had an ex-girlfriend in college whose grandfather golfed every single day, up and he was alive, 10 years ago at 93, still playing every single day. And I admired that because I thought if there's something that drives you to get out of bed in the morning and it occupies your attention and you genuinely love it, it keeps you young. And coaching is far more grueling of an activity than golf. And if this is the thing that truly energizes him to get out of bed every morning, he legitimately could coach till his mid-80s or more. Like, seriously, it could happen. Like, why wouldn't it? Maybe he becomes more of a CEO than he is, but why not?
Well, and like to go back to recruiting, like, this is a guy that loves it. This is the reason why he wins at this level. I know there's lots of coaches that when they get out of it, they're relieved. They don't have to make phone calls and send those texts anymore and mess around with all that stuff. I imagine that's part of it for Nick Saban is you would just get that itch to keep doing that because you're so good at it.
Well, and we talked to John Talty about his book, and one of the more interesting things I thought in his Saban book was like when they do their recruiting board, basically the top 15 targets or so, Saban's like, those guys are mine. I got those guys.
And now
he usually gets most of them.
What's the thing too that seems to be most grueling about recruiting? It's getting on airplanes and making in-home visits and all the travel and stuff. But the rules that are probably going to be coming in place make it more friendly to be a head coach. Less time on the road, more leeway of potential recruiting staffers going out there. Like in a few years, the coach might be on the road way less, which would be something else that you could take into account because flying all over the country, I think would be very taxing as you get into your 80s, obviously. So
do you think it would be the rules that drive him out someday, Andy? Do you think it would be all these giant changes from what he's used to? Do you think that would be the thing that eventually you get tired of things aren't the way they used to be?
If there's something that keeps him from gaining an advantage where he can't overcome it. There's nothing that his ingenuity or his hard work or, work ethic can do to overcome it. That I think would be, and I think that's why he sounded the alarm on the NIL stuff, because he can't create more rich people in Alabama. Like there will not be more rich people in Alabama than there are rich people in Texas. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's the thing he can't control. Everything else he's had control over. He's been able to exercise some degree of control. So that's the only thing, and that's what Aaron Suttles, our Alabama beat writer, said, is that was the only thing that kind of gave him a little bit of pause as far as, oh, this guy will coach forever, is it's kind of the one thing he can't really control.
Right.
It's a good point.
So we'll see. But you were visiting with a program today that is expected to compete with Alabama on the national stage. That's expected to compete for national championships every year. You were in Columbus, saw the Buckeyes, saw Ryan Day. Where are they at?
Yeah, I spent some time with Ryan Day in his office on Tuesday. And, I think that this is a very critical time for him, because if you actually think about the way things played out for him his first 2 years, you know, they made the playoff and lost in a heartbreaking fashion that, you know, if a few breaks go a different way, they might win that game and play LSU in the national championship. And then the next year they make it to the national title. They didn't lose a regular season game until year 3. You know, it's like, I think this is the first year where he's going into it where he faced any sort of scrutiny at all. He had to make wholesale changes in his staff, and all these things that a head coach has to do, the hard things, you know, for the first time. And people forget that he was a first-time coach. So, you know, he kind of gave the spiel about the 11-2 and won the Rose Bowl, and that's a bad year thing. But he knows it was a bad year, you know. So I feel like he is kind of still coming into his own a little bit about like where he is and, you know, the program that he's at and facing, you know, challenges for the first time. He told me he got heckled in the grocery store after they lost to Michigan. I don't know why he still goes to the grocery store, but the man does.
How existential a threat is a loss to Michigan? Because I was talking to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch the other day, and he made the point that it feels like the end of the world to the people in Columbus when they lose to Michigan, but maybe it doesn't necessarily feel like the end of the world to the Michigan people when they lose to Ohio State.
Yeah, well, the thing about that loss is that the last 2 coaches that were at Ohio State, both of whom won national titles, literally never lost that game. You know, Tressel lost one early in his tenure, and Urban never did. So that is a huge deal. So, you know what it means to the people here.
That's the part that because it feels like the way they lost that game was where people started going in on Ryan Day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and the thing that he had to do, and the number one thing that Urban Meyer was criticized for during his tenure was a reluctance to make staff changes. And, you know, the hardest part of being a head coach is making those staff changes because they're critical, you know, from a recruiting standpoint, of course, but somebody who can come in and fix your problem. And Ohio State's problem wasn't necessarily the talent that was on the field. It wasn't, you know, I mean, I guess you can make a case that there were some schematic issues there, but they were soft. You know, how do you make a team soft and how do you harden that team? You know, he had to make a wholesale change on his defense. So, you know, I don't know that they will beat Alabama, but they have the same offense that they've had. They got Trey Henderson in the backfield. They got CJ Stroud. They've got Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, they've got more talent on their offensive side of the ball than, you know, you can even make a case that they might be as talented or more talented on offense than Alabama is. So the question is the entire defense, which the staff is basically completely new. Can they fix those issues? And it'll be very interesting because I like to think about a world where if Ohio State loses to Michigan again for some reason, or they don't make the playoff this year, that's 2 years in a row that Ryan Day didn't make the playoff. You know, and that to me is when you start getting, not that the guy's going to ever get fired, he just signed an extension, but that's the danger zone here. Losing to Michigan, like you said, is that a big deal? It feels different than the way that Ohio State has not met expectations in the past. Losing a playoff game or getting upset by Purdue and all those weird games that happened were definitely tough to swallow. But when you lose that game, there's a sourness to it that Ohio State fans literally have not really experienced for almost 20 years.
Well,
Ari, is the, like, how much, like, from your time out there, what's the sense on just, is this a pretty quick flip for Jim Knowles on the defense? Obviously he's kind of working with a group of coaches he hasn't worked with before as much. Like, there's obviously good talent at all 3 levels, but like, what's the sense of, like, I don't think you have to have a top 10 defense necessarily when you have that kind of offense to complement, but like, what's the,
when you have that offense, I'll throw that back at you because I'm always curious to hear what you guys think. If you have the top offense or the second best offense, the typical Ohio State offense, where does your defense need to rank in total defense to win a national title?
Probably in the upper third, maybe the upper,
because LSU
25%. I
think LSU was in the low 20s or high 20s, low 30s when they won the national title a few years ago. So that to me, I think is they don't have to have a great defense; they have to have a very good one. And with the players that they have, you know, the thing about it is that they made all these changes on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that for Ohio State, they have a lot of very critical players at all 3 levels, like you guys said, who are supposed to be very, very good, especially on the defensive line. If JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer become who they're supposed to be, then Ohio State's defense is awesome. So it's like there's all these questions about, can you motivate the team right? Can you make the schematic changes necessary? How big of a flip is it? It's like, how much does a coach matter when it comes to, will these 5-star prospects who are supposed to be first-round picks one day play like it? And it's like, of course it's the coaches. They need to develop that, and they need to have, the right buttons and all those things. But also, too, it's on the kids to develop and be who they are supposed to be. So, my understanding, like they asked Jim Knowles before I got here, well, do you have any worries about the defense? He goes, no. So it's just like everybody here is like, they're going to be awesome. And it's like, I don't know. We're having a hard time reading whether that means they're actually amazing or he doesn't know exactly that this isn't Stillwater anymore. Like, so like it's, and you can't just say things off the cuff without people diving into it. So, I think that with the talent that they have, theoretically, they always can have a quick flip. I mean, Ohio State's defense had some major deficiencies in 2013. They go out and hire Chris Ash, fix the defense, they win the national title next year. So, yes, I mean, I don't know if they can flip it into a top 5 defense the way that Ryan Day and Jim Knowles are talking, but last year was embarrassing for their standards, and I think that it should be much improved from then. And like, the guy's got venom coming out of his teeth when, he thinks about Jim Harbaugh and he thinks about what happened at Michigan. And, their entire season 2 years ago was dedicated to beating Clemson after they lost in 19, and they got to play him again the following year and they beat the crap out of them. I kind of feel like that's what is in the crosshairs for Michigan in terms of what their goal is. So, especially with what Jim Harbaugh said after that game last year about the third base comment that he made. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh yeah,
I had
forgotten
forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Oh, people heard that. People cared about that.
Yeah. People cared about that, and it was it was just like a messed up thing to say, I think. And it's what makes the rivalry great. But like, people heard that.
Well, that's the thing. When you've won I guess it was 1 out of 5 because they didn't play one of them that they would have played. You still probably can't really chirp like that. I mean, I guess you can after that much of an ass kicking, because that was a thorough ass kicking.
I mean, the guy's been dormant for 5 years after he came out, walking like a stud that first year. It's like it's been bubbling out of him. I mean, he's probably been wanting to say that for 5 years or 3 years since Ryan Day took the head coaching job. So, it's not necessarily about that specific comment, but Ryan Day is like very mild mannered. The thing I like about him is that he's a person. You can sit down and actually talk to him like I talk to you guys, and he's like responsive. He looks you in the eye. He's just a good dude. But he is competitive as hell, and like I know that drove him crazy.
Well, and it's interesting hearing you talk about, you mentioned, oh no, he's not getting fired, but danger zone if they were to lose to Michigan again. And like I can feel certain SEC fan bases going, yep. And everybody else in the Big Ten going, why would you even think about that? Like,
yeah, well, it's just
Ohio State operates on that level of, you better be moving toward a national championship or winning a national championship. Those are the only 2 acceptable options.
Of course, it's been a decade almost. I mean, think about what they had in 14. And 10 years have gone by in the classes they've signed since then, and they haven't won one. And it is just a stark reminder that Nick Saban has made winning national championships look so easy that we forget how freaking hard it is.
It's incredibly hard.
It's incredibly hard to win a national championship.
I mean, and you guys have talked about him plenty over this offseason, but I mean, the obvious parallel is Lincoln Riley, right? Because that's a very similar deal of taking over for a coach that's, won a national championship. And, as time passes, like, if you don't take that thing all the way, then how did people talk about it this offseason? They said it got a little bit worse every year because you're going to the playoff, but it wasn't, you're just judging it by what was the results of that playoff game. And that's how it is at the highest level. And so I'm not saying, like, I don't know, all right, is the danger here just that you get stuck in that 10-2, you get kind of stuck in that zone of you're really good, but you're not on the par of Bama and Georgia. I mean,
well, they've been really good and not on par with Alabama for 10 years. I mean, honestly, and they know that, and I think the biggest thing about that, and I've always wondered this even back when I was on the beat, was Alabama does recruit moderately better than Ohio State, but for the most part, they bring in very similar classes on an annual basis.
And they produce draft picks in a similar fashion.
Ohio State plays a much easier schedule. I mean, if you look at Ohio State's schedule, they have some marquee non-conference games, but they don't play a team that should beat them when they play.
Right.
And maybe the truth is the same is true for Bama, but on a much higher scale because they're that much better.
Well, that's what I don't. The bottom the talent level at the bottom of the SEC West. I think Sam Pittman taking over Arkansas was a really good example of that. Like, I remember talking to Sam Pittman after he took over Arkansas, and he's like, "Oh, no. There are players there. Do not get confused by their record the last 2 years. They have talent." And you saw it immediately. Like,
yeah, I mean, the bottom of the SEC, I think, is better than the bottom in the middle of the Big Ten. Now, maybe not Vanderbilt. There's certain,
right.
But I think
But
that
there's too many programs that can recruit at a top 30 level in the SEC.
Yeah, like Arkansas's in the basement. They averaged like top 25 classes for the 4 years before he got there, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you look at the team, like Wisconsin doesn't even average top 25 classes, and they're the best team in the Big Ten West. So you look at the thing that is most interesting to me, and I was going to make this point, was that Saban just makes it so automatic. And like when you look about how many times Ohio State's missed the playoff since 14, not even just not winning a national title, but missed the playoff, you could make the case they're the most underperforming team with the talent that they have on their roster in terms of what's on the other end. And the question that I've always had, because this is natural ebb and flow of a program, is what is in the cocktail in Tuscaloosa? What is the tangible thing that is occurring there that makes Alabama so consistently good every single year? Because no other program in the history of my lifetime has ever been this good, regardless of coaching turnover and regardless of who leaves the team.
Right. They don't have an Iowa game in 17. They don't have a Purdue game.
They don't have that.
They don't have those games. When they
like
lose
last
to somebody,
year,
they're good.
When they lost in the national championship game, and he said it was a rebuilding year, everybody laughed. But look at what the guy's done. Of course it was.
Yeah.
As ridiculous as it is, as people think it is to say that 11-2 and a loss to Michigan and a Rose Bowl win is a bad year for Ohio State, not winning the national championship at Alabama is a bad year. And I just have always wanted to know, and maybe the answer is just Nick Saban's an alien. But I like, if I had, like, if you pass away and you get to rise up into the heavens, then you get to ask God 3 questions. Let's just make the 3 college football questions, right? One would be, what the hell's going on at Texas? Completely.
Why can't Texas win? That's good.
I had to throw that in there for Max.
Yep.
But what is the tangible secret? What is the secret sauce that Alabama has that separates them from Ohio State and other programs in that sphere, specifically when the other teams are like Clemson and Ohio State that don't play schedules nearly as challenging? It's absolutely insane. And like, I think that, like, you're like, well, there's a small gap. There's a huge gap between Alabama and Ohio State. It shouldn't be that big, but it's big. It's huge.
And it's so huge that they've neutralized that they can have a revolving door of coaches in their building. Right. It doesn't matter.
And sometimes almost on purpose. Like that, Nick will be like, I want to change things up a little bit. So I'm going to get you an NFL job, and then you're going to leave. And then you're going to get a coordinator job.
Oh, you lost 2 recruiting battles? I think you're out of here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, the standard there could be as high as he wants it to be.
Yeah. It's like the only thing that he could possibly do to improve what he's done is win it 4 years in a row. Because winning it two years in a row would just be on par with what's been going on there already.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like this 8-year deal to weave it back into that. If he wins 3 more national titles, nobody will ever do what he's done ever again.
I don't know that anybody's ever going to do it anyway.
Anyway.
But, I was thinking about it, Max, your alma mater in the 90s, if the ball bounced a little bit differently a couple times in 1996, Nebraska may win 4 in a row. Like, they may go 94, 95, 96, 97. I don't know if we're ever going to see that again, but if we are, it's going to be from Nick Saban in Alabama.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, who else could? In the next 10, 20 years, who else could?
He's doing it in a conference where 7 of the top 10 teams in the recruiting rankings live.
Right.
It's not like he's making the playoff playing in a conference where they're double-digit, like Ohio State's double-digit favorites in like 11 out of their 12 games every year.
Or Clemson, once Florida State fell off, did not have that superpower.
Like, how many, like, you saw it last year, because I listened to your podcasts throughout the season, and I remember especially after Oregon being like, all right, there's just a bunch of games here where we're not really going to find out how
Yeah.
real the fixes are and stuff. So like Ohio State has to turn it on for how many games a year in the regular season? Like really turn it on.
2.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Penn
what would you
State,
say for
Michigan?
Alabama, Andy?
I would say because they seem to always schedule one in the non-conference that they have to try.
Mhm.
So they got that one, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M. And like we said, if you're talking about having to play against top 25 talent, they're going to play 3 more games against top 25 talent that we didn't mention.
Like Ohio State gets to play Rutgers, and maybe Alabama has years where they play Vandy. But Ohio State gets Maryland and Rutgers every year.
But some years Alabama lucks out by getting Kentucky, which is good. Like
that's the luck out year. The top 25 team.
Kentucky's good. so
you know,
there
it's
just really aren't that many cruise control games, which makes it makes the dynasty even more impressive.
You know, I've revealed this stat, I think, on this show months ago, but I'll tell it to you, Max, in case you didn't listen. But if you go look at Urban Meyer's record at Ohio State in 7 years, I think he lost 9 games total or something like that. If you go look at the games where the spread was like 7 or less, or games where the team on the other sideline had similar talent, he's 500. Like if you go actually like break that down. So like, and I'm not trying to belittle the man, you know, he's obviously a great coach and they won national championships and he changed the entire paradigm of Ohio State football. But it's not that they have a lot of games in there that, I mean, like Ryan Day didn't lose a regular season game till year 3. And it's like, that's super impressive. But how many games in the first 2 years did they play that they could lose?
Let me ask you this, guys.
This is what Saban does to everyone, though. All right, this is it's the line. Comparison is the thief of joy, and everyone just looks at Bama and says, "Man, we freaking suck by comparison."
And everybody in Ohio has actually resigned the fact that they're not Alabama, which is insane, because they demand excellence and they want to be the best program, and I think they have the tools to do that. But there's a certain resignation that the sport has collectively done that just said, you know what? We're all playing for second best here.
So we've spent the entire offseason talking about all this money that's going to come into the Big Ten. Will that money make Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Rutgers, Purdue, Nebraska, Illinois, will it make those programs operate at a higher level? Will it allow them to operate? Will they be able to collect the kind of talent that mid-tier SEC programs collect? And then suddenly Ohio State is challenged on a week-in, week-out basis.
Do you think that
talking about putting that money not into sparkly fountains and stuff, but into actual talent?
Either way, however you want to play it, into hiring and retaining coaches. Because remember, we are only 9 years removed from Brett Bielema leaving Wisconsin for Arkansas because Arkansas would pay him enough to keep assistants he wanted to keep.
I mean, the Big Ten East has...
That should never happen again at a Big Ten school.
No.
Never. Big Ten East has $300 million head coaches on contract right now, right? Between Ryan Day, Mel Tucker, and James Franklin. And I know that Harbaugh's contract isn't as long right now, but he's in that same sphere.
Right. And
so I don't know.
Guaranteed.
And I'm sure you can talk on this more than me, Max, but I don't know if the money is the issue at Nebraska. You know, I think that they're doing okay financially.
Yeah.
You know, you've got,
yep.
So like the Big Ten's been situated, and it's like if the tide rises on the Big Ten side, isn't that also going to happen with the SEC when they reach their media deals too? So, you know, I don't know if everything, it's just like, I don't know what Ohio State, what else they can invest in.
Ohio State is doing what they need to be doing. When are the other ones going to act like Ohio State? That's what I'm asking. Because what happens in the SEC is Arkansas trying to act like Alabama, Texas A&M trying to act like Alabama, LSU already acting like LSU, Florida acting like Florida, Georgia acting like Georgia, Auburn acting like Auburn, Tennessee acting like Tennessee. Like, when are they all going to realize what is Ohio State doing and why don't we just do that?
That's what I look at people with 6-packs and I say that to myself all the time. What are they doing that I'm not?
How long would it
But
take?
they
It
have
wouldn't
the
take that
money
long
to do
get
it.
would it?
Like
I don't think I could do anything to get a six pack.
I used to say the same thing, and I
don't-
might get one eventually.
I don't know that even if I was perfect for 5 years and I worked out like a demon and ate perfectly, that I would have a six pack at the end of the
You
road.
would be shocked. You would be shocked. Just keep plugging that stuff into the app.
Yeah.
You're gonna be shocked.
Yeah. It's just like nice to say out loud,
But
what can
no,
Ari do to get a six pack and what can Iowa do to be Ohio State? Those are the two questions I want to know.
seriously, that is, and maybe it isn't. Maybe there is
Wait,
nothing.
did you
they
ever
can do
give the
because of
rest of your
geography.
questions, Ari? Your
He
big
said
questions?
the three questions. Let's go. He didn't reveal reveal the other two.
You
What's
revealed
in the
one of them.
secret-
Texas,
No,
Ohio
there's
can't
two.
take
I
her
did
Alabama.
two.
What's the
Two.
third question?
I actually would love to know. What was I forgot the third one.
Did Tony Soprano die at the end of The Sopranos?
He absolutely died at the end of The Sopranos.
I know. I think they've said that.
Yeah. Is it a non-football related question? Because I've got a lot of them.
Any question what? All right. I feel like this should be its own episode, but we're too close to the season, so we can't. We got to actually talk about football the whole time. Yes. However many questions you would like to ask God about
I've got
anything.
so many. If it's non-football related, is the rest of the show my question?
Let's
That's an
roll.
episode.
I want to
That's
hear
an
a few of
episode.
them.
What were the Phoenix Lights?
Okay.
You remember the Phoenix Lights?
No.
Ha, all right, boys. You got something to Google when the
Is
show's
that
over.
Amari Stoudemire?
When I was a kid in Phoenix growing up, there were three mysterious lights that came over the valley that were soundless, and it was like up for hours, and everybody in the city saw it.
Well, those were aliens, of course.
And then it disappeared. It vanished.
Yeah.
And then there were a bunch of articles.
were aliens. Next
There
question.
was a bunch of articles about because there's a lot of out in the desert there. They had like H-bomb testing areas and stuff. That it was a government vehicle.
Government testing, kind of
Yes,
that usual.
but it
BS
was like
answer.
the size of a football field. And I didn't see them myself, but my parents saw it, I think. And I just want to know what the hell was that?
Do people just
All right.
100% agree that's UFO?
There's a lot of
action?
it's like a whole thing. This happened in the 90s. You got to go.
Okay.
You got to go.
They're
Right,
testing
we'll look this up.
H-bombs. Could it have been some like classified government military vehicle that they were?
The size of a football field without making any noise, standing in place in one spot for an hour and a half.
That was made by aliens. Listen, I go to sleep watching Ancient Aliens. In my next
so
life, I want to come back as an ancient astronaut theorist. It seems like a better way to make a living.
Yeah, and there's other things like Ancient Aliens that I could go into too. Like I'm fascinated by that stuff. Believe it or not, I'm in on that stuff.
No, Ari, I
course
saw
you are.
Nope this summer. Are you saying nobody got sucked up into the lights during that period of time?
What did you see this summer?
Nope.
Nope. It's a great movie.
No idea what that is.
Okay, all right.
I'll get there though, I bet.
But nobody disappeared during the sighting?
No, I don't think so. But
Nothing happened?
it's a whole thing.
Nope is the new Jordan Peele movie.
I think
Okay.
it's the most.
Yeah.
I think it's the most publicly viewed alien conspiracy. Like because everybody in the city saw it. It wasn't like a nutbag who said, "I tell you, I saw that in the field." By myself out there in 1977. I swear the entire
It's
city
everybody
saw it.
drinking in Old Town Scottsdale looked up and was like, "Holy crap!
Yeah, I
what
was
is
like,
that?"
holy, it honestly is. I cannot believe you've never heard of this. So it's like in my childhood.
And they all took out
This
their
was a
Palm Pilots,
huge
but they
deal.
couldn't take a picture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was in the 90s. It happened in the 90s. I was a kid.
They went on AOL.
You know,
You've got mail.
to this day, like I've always wanted to know.
Somebody must have processed their disposable camera picture and got a good picture of it.
There's
right?
a bunch of pictures of it. Yeah, go. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Took it
Can
to
you?
the drugstore?
Can I
and
send it to you?
Maybe
Andy?
they got
Yeah,
doubles.
send it to us. Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to the Slack, and I want you to put it up on. It wasn't here,
Someone's got to have a Polaroid of this.
Andy. If I send it to you, can you put it up?
I can try.
Okay, it's sent.
All right.
If you type in Phoenix Lights into Google, there's live shots from the news of it.
All right. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. So this is like the size of a football field, you say?
Yeah, and it made no noise.
Very interesting.
I mean, it is like. Do you believe in aliens?
I just think there's too much stuff in the universe that there's not some life somewhere else.
In college, and full disclaimer,
Can I see this picture, Andy?
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
trying. This is not.
Send it to me, Ari.
Technology is not helping me right now.
I should have done it in the group chat. That's my fault. But in college, I watched this video, and I wasn't exactly sober. So, we've all been there. But there was a video that was like a scale. It's on YouTube if you haven't seen it before. And it puts like Earth on a conveyor belt. And then it goes to the left, and it is to scale how big Earth is in comparison to other things. And then I think I read a stat somewhere of the known universe that it takes 17 million light years or something to get to the edge of the universe. Think about how fast that
Ari
is.
sent the smallest image possible.
I'm just getting them off of Google Images, guys.
So there it is. There's the Phoenix lights. Those little
people know
tiny
what the
lights if
Phoenix
you're watching
lights
the
are.
live stream of this.
So think about the speed of light, how long it would take 17 million years of light to travel to get to the end of the galaxy.
Well, 17 million light years means it takes 17 million years for light to travel that.
Do you know how far that is? That is a distance that you can't even compute.
No, I couldn't fathom.
So to think that we're the only life in all of that is arrogant.
For sure. Yeah.
It's just math. It's just math for me. Like again, numbers I can't compute. That many galaxies, that many systems, that many planets.
Ari, on this picture, are we talking about one big thing? Or are we talking about a bunch of individual things? These
it's
lights?
a bunch of individual lights that you see, but everybody who saw it thought that it was connected by one.
People thought it was an outline of something.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was up there for hours. It wasn't like it was like, well, we saw that and that was it. I would like to know who the Zodiac killer was. You know, the Zodiac killer? That'd be a good one.
That would be. There's a lot of people who would like to know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's also a rock formation in South America, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's made out of limestone or something, and the stones are like 50 or 70 tons.
I definitely saw this episode of Ancient Aliens.
Yes, and
100% saw that.
Onto that island like 3,000 feet above sea level, and the stone blocks that were up there didn't originate on that continent. I'd love to know how that happened. Like we're going down like a lot of like my questions for God. It's like,
there's your Phoenix lights. There's a better image of the
Andy.
Phoenix lights. It looks like you're in a Walmart and somebody turned off the lights and the generator came on, but it was outside. So
it's like a canned lighting, but in the sky.
That's right. Exactly.
I mean,
lights.
They've got documentaries about this. Are you guys even remotely interested in that?
Not nearly as interested as you are.
I mean, you got to also remember too.
I would be interested in learning more about this. Sure.
I mean, I was a kid when it happened, like in the city I was living in. So
are you going to ask God about the chupacabra?
I'm going to ask God, why does Andy think that liquid steak tastes good?
Liquid steak is delicious because it is just steak in liquid form. Steak shakes. Forget steak. Do you think I would get, if I came out with a product called Steak Shakes, would I get sued by Steak and Shake?
It's iffy. It's questionable. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. But based on that, so if you enjoyed that, do you think you would enjoy a blended burger?
Ooh, I hate wet bread.
Okay.
So if you just blended the patty and then certain of the toppings like the cheese and maybe some bacon, I'd definitely go for that. But
maybe take one of the maybe take one of the buns out, but leave one in to get a little bit of bread.
I don't want wet bread. Like what you saw, where you saw my son start gagging because he's a big texture person. That would be, as soon as the wet bread hits me, I'm done. I can't. Okay. I can't do it. So it's strange what our triggers are on these things. Like with mayo, for me, that was pure and visceral. As soon as it hit my taste buds and my nose, blah. But this, which, I mean, it looks like dog food and didn't bother me one bit, and smells kind of like dog food too.
And your stomach's fine. You know.
Oh yeah. No, I would absolutely, especially if I were, like, I'll never be a bodybuilder or anything like that. But if I were and needed to,
don't say never.
I will say never to that.
Why?
I want to get a six pack. I have no desire to be a bodybuilder. I have no desire to oil myself up and wear a banana hammock and pose for people.
I smell a bit.
No.
You would
You're
win up
not. You're not very convincing on this. Now, Andy, I do like to start a morning with a Chobani. Could you do this like a Chobani? Could you do the steak as almost like a yogurt that you start the day with?
Yes, absolutely. You put it in a little cup.
A little cup.
Like I pull the foil off and then just.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what is the difference between this? Like the packed tuna fish in a can.
Mm-hmm,
it's not blended, but if you canned this,
you should drink that too. I mean,
it would look like
it
would look like Fancy Feast cat food. Is what it would look like.
Yeah,
but it's tasty.
Who was DB Cooper?
I haven't watched that documentary. I assume that one was sweet. The Netflix one.
It was an interesting documentary if you want to watch
I
4 hours
the
of
DB
stuff.
Cooper thing is not quite. It's never really done it for me. That whole mystery.
Yeah,
but
I just think it's just like the balls that guy had to have to just jump out of the back of a plane like that.
Yeah.
Like
and then bury the money on a riverbank.
God would just like tell you the guy's name is like, really? That's what you want to know? Like that's the big answer you need.
His name is Mortimer Sappelstein.
Right.
And then Ari's like, care to elaborate? No, you just asked his name.
No, just a guy.
What about you?
Okay, money.
I know we're going a little long here, guys, but what are your 3 questions?
I don't know.
See,
I'm not watching enough H&E.
Is it bad that I don't think that deeply about anything?
Maybe I'm just have a weird mind.
Why did you make Scott Norwood miss that field goal? Because that seemed kind of cruel.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel haunted by that many things, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm not a Bills fan. I just like that particular one seemed exceptionally cruel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that deeply about stuff. I maybe that means I'm just not very smart. So
yeah,
Catherine, this is getting very existential. Yes, it is, Catherine.
The note here, Catherine, who is like my favorite reader that we have. The lights also had to be pretty bright for them to be viewable from a major metropolis.
This is very true.
It's a great point.
Because the bigger the city, the less stars you see out. I do have one more football question before we go. I meant to ask you this yesterday, Ari, and I'm glad we have Max here because I want to ask this. And this is bonus football.
Well, Max, did you listen to the podcast where we talked about the Heisman?
No, I haven't.
Are you a Heisman voter?
Yes.
Do you vote simply for the best player, or do you vote for the most outstanding story?
I don't know. I've only had a vote for two or 3 years now at this point. I'd say I kind of fall in the middle where you guys are at on that. Typically, I think that best player on best team is usually carries a lot of weight for me, but it's just got to be really outstanding. And if it's not best team, so be it. But I don't know. I always agonize over it, and part of it I can go with gut a little bit more on it. I think one of those years, Ari, I think I had Dobbins in my top 3 just because I felt like whenever they played their biggest games, that guy. I think there was the year when those guys. It was when Chase Young and Fields were up for it, right? For me, it's a little bit of big games. There's a couple different factors for me. Like I think I had Will Anderson second last year. I think I had Bryce Young first, and I was just freaking stunned that Will Anderson didn't go to New York. I thought that was kind of a miss by everybody, but maybe that's on me for not putting him first.
Yeah.
The question I have, because we're going over the BetMGM odds, and so they have the top 10 contenders based on the odds. So I'll read you the list. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Bijan Robinson, Will Anderson, Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Travion Henderson, Anthony Richardson, DJ Uiagalelei. So those 10. I'm going to give you 0 juice on this. This is even money. One of those 10 or the field, what would you take?
Let me pull up the list again here.
I'm taking one of the 10.
You're taking one of the 10? I say that 2 of the last 3 years, the field would have won. Like Devontae Smith and Joe Burrow would not have shown up on any of these lists.
For sure.
In 2019.
The thing about it is that if you're giving, and I don't know if this is a cop out, but if you're going to give me 0 juice on bets that are 4 and 5 to 1, like that are actually within reason. Like I just think the smart play would be to take the
Do you
the
think
name.
there should be juice on a bet like that on the field? Like what do you think a casino?
I mean, it would still be plus odds because
book would give you that. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you took all of the top candidates and then you said the field, which means you're betting on somebody to come at like Jackson Dart or something to come out of nowhere and win it, which absolutely happens all the time. I think that just intellectually speaking, you got to go with what we know, which is that Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are in the.
I feel like there are more proven candidates in the favorites, the preseason favorites this year than there were. But last year Young's name wasn't among those. It was okay. He's Alabama's quarterback. The last 2 Alabama quarterbacks have wound up in, or actually the last 3, if you count Jalen Hurts, who did it at another school, had wound up in New York for the Heisman, even if they hadn't won. Like, it made sense that Bryce Young's name would be in that conversation. But it just feels like we've had so many years in the last decade that person has come seemingly out of nowhere that I might go with the field.
Well, okay, but if you take, all right, let's just say this. Let's take Bryce Young, Will Anderson, because do we all think Alabama's going to win it all this year?
Yes,
we do. We're all.
Okay.
I
think it's all but. I honestly think it's all but a certainty.
Okay, so Bryce Young, Will Anderson. Let's throw in CJ Stroud. Let's throw in Travion Henderson.
You could throw in Jahmyr Gibbs.
There's not a Georgia player on here, right?
Yeah, you could throw in Jahmyr Gibbs to this because he probably will be a huge part of the Alabama offense.
But if I say CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Anderson, Travion Henderson, do you think there's like an 80% chance one of those guys wins it? You know what I mean? Like if you just focus on the teams you think are going to play for next championship.
I'd say recent history says no. Recent history says there's not an 80% chance one of those guys wins it. That it's maybe closer to 50-50 or maybe below 50-50.
I don't think, there's not a Georgia player on here. You could make the argument, Ari, if you want that Jackson Smith and Jigba maybe has a better chance than some of these guys. You can maybe make an argument for Jahmyr Gibbs, but I don't know if they necessarily have the wrong guys from the best teams on here.
Well, right. Yeah. And Dylan Gabriel and DJ Uiagalelei makes sense because those are teams that could be good playoff contending type teams.
Yeah.
And they're the quarterbacks. And if they are good playoff contending teams, their quarterbacks are going to play well. Now with Clemson, we don't know. Is it DJ? Do they wind up looking at Cade Klubnik? Does Cade push DJ to be better? The Anthony Richardson thing on the list to me seems like if he's a Heisman candidate, it's because Florida's won. He has caused Florida to win the requisite number of games. But I don't know. One of my favorite parts of this every year is figuring out who that person's going to be. Like the Devontae Smith thing. And it was funny because as that season was going on, I kept looking back and going, we should have seen this coming. Like the year before Devontae Smith won the Heisman.
By the way, you can razz me for this, but I voted for Mac Jones that year.
I understand that. I thought Devontae was the person who made that offense go. But what I was going to say is the year before, Devontae Smith had led Alabama in catches, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns on a team that had 4 first-round receivers. It had Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Devontae, and then who was the other? Was it Ridley?
Which reminds me
Henry
of
Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs. Yeah.
Reminds me of Jackson Smith and Jigba being the leading receiver at Ohio State last year that had Olave and Wilson.
Bingo. That's the one that I think they might have missed on here.
Yeah. No, I think he's a great value play for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that receiver is probably
better than 20-1. Yeah, I don't know what it is on here, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if receiver is just a better spot than running back, just in general, position wise.
And that may be a change in the game situation. That just may be how the game has changed over the years because, for so long it was the running backs was almost like fantasy football. The running backs were first and then it was all quarterbacks. And now it feels like there is a little bit more differentiation. And we have something coming up, and I won't spoil our picks, but we had the Heisman draft among us writers at The Athletic. And I'm not going to say where everybody went, but I was shocked and felt kind of stupid because I didn't pick him high enough. I wasn't one of the people who picked him. I couldn't believe how low Brock Bowers fell.
Mm-hmm.
Like we blew that. That's a guy on a team that could make the playoff who they kind of build it feels like they're going to build their offense around.
Yes, that's a man higher than him.
Is that anybody has played his position and won the Heisman before?
Leon Hart in the 40s for Notre Dame, who was an end, which played tight end and defensive end.
Yeah. So it's like he might be outstanding, but like, did Kyle Pitts even get a sniff for the Heisman?
Right, and we talked about that yesterday. Where I had Trask, I think, second on my ballot that year, or maybe third on my ballot. And looking back, Pitts probably was the thing that made that offense special,
right? Even
more so than Trask. And I feel like I made a mistake there.
Yeah.
So where do you buy DJ, Andy? Not to spoil the draft, but you buy DJ as like he belongs.
Not necessarily. I buy Clemson being a good team and being a playoff contender. I do not know if that's because DJ got them there, because Cade Klubnik pushed DJ to get them there, or because they wind up changing quarterbacks and Cade Klubnik gets them there. I don't know. I do know that DJ, they didn't run him very much at the beginning of last season. I think the reason for that was they were scared if he got hurt, they weren't real confident in what they had behind him. I think probably they're more confident in Klubnik behind him, and that may cause them to run him a little bit more, open things up, because he's got a big arm and he's a big guy. So he's not lightning fast, but he can do damage in the run game enough that if you're scared of him running, you're going to have to give him some one-on-one matchups on the outside, and maybe he can take advantage of that.
Well, and as good as, Andy, as good as Cade Klubnik could be, Dabo's going to stick with DJ as long as he can.
As long as he can, but he's not to the detriment of them having the season that they should have.
For sure.
That D-line is nasty. Like that interior D-line especially is incredibly good with Tyler Davis and Ryan Brisset. So I just, they'll do what they got to do. So whether that's DJ or Cade, they're going to do what they got to do.
Whoever got Cade in that draft probably is feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to that person. That's all I know. Not to spoil anything. Thanks so much for hanging in with us. This has been a fun show. Thank you, Ari and Max, for not throwing up while I was drinking steak shakes. Steak shakes, by the way, will be bottled and on store shelves, hopefully within the next couple weeks. I got to check the supply chain. We got to figure out if we can make that happen. And also whether Steak and Shake.
And what's the price point on your steaks here, Andy? I mean, come on. This could be a pretty expensive bottle on the shelves.
The top sirloin tonight was a good deal at the old Publix. I want to say that they were on sale for like $3.99 or $4.99 a pound. So it was pretty good. Not too bad.
Supply issues there, but I think it's got promise. If
there's people like price you point may be a little high.
Good. It might.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So yes, but hey, Adrian Martinez, thank you for the inspiration. You are tougher than anybody on this podcast, and we can't wait to watch you play. Thanks for giving us a hell of a show. And we will talk to you guys on Friday, but Ari will talk to you on Thursday with Stars Matter. And by the way, if you're joining the Run Your Pool, which you can go to play.runyourpool.com/staples, get your picks in this week. They have put these week 0 games with the week 1 games, but you got to do them all. You got to do a bunch of games, so that it won't be you just study the high profile games and you can beat us. You're gonna have to get them all. So go to play.runyourpool.com/staples, sign up, and get your picks locked in before these week 0 games on Saturday for week 0 and for week 1, and we'll get that thing started. But thank you so much for listening. It was a pleasure. The show was brought to you by Sling TV, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Check out sling.com for special offers.